Tyler Johnson wrote the song. Jimin wrote his soul into it, and Into the Sun is the result. But if you don't know who Tyler Johnson is, then you don't fully understand what just happened. You don't understand the weight of what Jimin pulled off. You don't understand why this closing track isn't just a good song on a great album. You don't understand why this is one of the most significant moments in Jimin's entire career. So buckle up, because by the time this video is over, you are going to look at Into the Sun in a completely different way. And you are never going to unhear it. Let's go. Let's start with the name that most of the world completely skipped over when those Arirang writing credits dropped. Because when Big Hit Music released that tracklist on March 3rd, the internet lost its mind. People were screaming about RM writing on every single track. People were going crazy over Diplo. People were breaking down the Tame Impala connection with Kevin Parker. But buried in the credits for Into the Sun, right there in the list alongside Dog, Diplo, V, and Jimin himself, sat a name that most casual listeners scrolled right past. Tyler Johnson. And if you don't know who that is, that's exactly the problem. Because Tyler Johnson is not a nobody. Tyler Johnson is not some background session player who got lucky. Tyler Johnson is one of the most powerful, most decorated, most in-demand music producers and songwriters alive on this planet right now. And he co-wrote the closing track of Arirang with Jimin. Tyler Johnson is a 9-time Grammy Award nominee and a 5-time Grammy Award winner. 5 Grammys. Let that number settle in your brain for a second. 5 Grammy wins. In an industry where most talented producers spend their entire careers chasing one, Tyler Johnson has 5. And those aren't participation trophies. Those are wins in the biggest categories in the entire music industry. His Grammy wins include Album of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Album for Harry Styles' Harry's House in 2023, Record of the Year for Miley Cyrus' Flowers in 2024, and Album of the Year for Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter in 2025. Read that list again. Harry Styles, Miley Cyrus, Beyoncé, 3 of the biggest solo artists on the face of this earth. 3 of the most commercially and critically dominant albums of the last 3 years. Tyler Johnson's fingerprints are all over every single one of them. And now his name is in the writing credits of a BTS album. On the closing track, next to Jimin, Tyler Johnson was born and raised in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. He graduated from Steamboat Springs High School in 2004, built his career in Nashville and then Los Angeles, and has been cited as a versatile producer whose early influences spanned classic rock, R&B, and hip-hop. But here's the thing about Tyler Johnson that makes him different from every other big-name producer you've ever heard of. His story isn't a story of someone who was born into connections or handed a shortcut. His story is one of the most grinding, most unlikely come-up stories in the history of modern music. And you need to know it, because it's actually part of why his work with Jimin makes complete sense. After moving to Los Angeles at 22 years old, Tyler Johnson worked as a valet parking cars before landing an apprenticeship with Grammy-winning producer Jeff Busker 3 years later. This guy was parking cars in Los Angeles while dreaming of making music that would one day fill stadiums across the world. He wasn't connected. He wasn't famous. He was just talented and hungry and absolutely relentless. Johnson has described his career path as abandoning a promising career in law after a district attorney he was interning for hurt his music and told him he should truly pursue music as a career. He walked away from a legal career. He moved across the country. He parked cars. He grounded out for years. And then he got a shot. His first day working with Jeff Busker, Johnson arrived to find Busker finishing the song We Are Young by Fun, and says he knew immediately he had found exactly what he had been looking for his whole life. That one moment in a studio changed everything. From there, Tyler Johnson spent years learning, building, absorbing everything about how to make world-class music. He earned Grammy nominations for his engineering work on Taylor Swift's Red, and then Ed Sheeran's X. He co-produced Cam's country breakthrough, Burning House, which reached number 2 on the Billboard Country Airplay and Hot Country Songs charts, and became his first platinum-selling record. The climb was slow. The climb was real. But it was building toward something massive. And then Harry Styles happened. Tyler Johnson is a longtime collaborator of Harry Styles, having co-written and co-produced across Styles' entire self-titled debut solo album, his sophomore album Fine Line, including hit singles Watermelon Sugar and Adore You. And in 2022, Styles' Grammy Album of the Year, Harry's House. Every single chapter of Harry Styles' solo career has Tyler Johnson attached to it. Every single one. Watermelon Sugar, #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. As it was #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 15 cumulative weeks, and Spotify's most streamed song of 2022. Harry's House, Grammy Album of the Year. Tyler Johnson wasn't just in the room. He was the architect. He was the person who helped Harry Styles figure out who Harry Styles was as a solo artist. Then came Miley Cyrus. Tyler Johnson co-wrote and produced Miley Cyrus' Flowers, which held the Billboard Hot 100 #1 spot for 8 weeks and became the fastest song to reach 1 billion streams on Spotify in history. The fastest song in Spotify's entire history to hit 1 billion streams. Tyler Johnson co-wrote that song, and it won Record of the Year at the Grammy Awards. Then came Beyoncé. At the 67th Annual Grammy Awards in February 2025, Johnson won Album of the Year for his production and songwriting work on Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter. Beyoncé's Cowboy Carter, Grammy Album of the Year. Tyler Johnson was part of that too. So when you look at this man's recent track record, Harry Styles, Miley Cyrus, Beyoncé, you are looking at the work of someone who is not just talented, but someone who fundamentally understands how to help the biggest artists in the world make the most important music of their careers. And then he walked into a room with Jimin. Now let's talk about what Jimin brought to that room. Because this story isn't just about Tyler Johnson's resume. This story is about what happens when Tyler Johnson's production philosophy collides with Jimin's emotional intelligence, his artistry, and everything he'd been carrying for the past 4 years. Jimin went into the military as one of the most celebrated performers on earth. He came out as something even more powerful. During those years of service, of silence, of separation from BTS, Jimin had released solo music that showed a completely different side of him. Deeper, more vulnerable, more willing to put himself completely on the line as an artist. By the time he walked into those Los Angeles sessions, he wasn't the same person who had stepped off the last BTS stage in 2022. He had lived more, felt more, had more to say. In mid-2025, once the last member had finished his service, all 7 members of BTS relocated to Los Angeles, where they shared a house for 2 months. The first time the group had been in one place since 2019. They kept a rigid schedule of 6 days a week, with mornings for physical training and afternoons in the studio writing and recording with rotating teams of collaborators until the evening. Imagine the energy in that house. 7 men who had been separated by distance and military service and solo careers, suddenly living under the same roof again. Writing music together, every single day. And those rotating teams of collaborators included some of the most talented people in the music industry, including Tyler Johnson. In BTS's February 13th interview with GQ, the members revealed that they went to a songwriting camp to work on the tracks for Arirang. Suga explained that depending on the different songs, there would be one member who would be the leading person who would contribute to the writing of a song. Jungkook described the process as having 3 rooms in the studio where members would pair up or work alone and switch pairs to produce different ideas and different types of collaborations. 3 rooms, pairs constantly shifting, ideas bouncing from one member to another, from BTS to their outside collaborators and back again. This is the environment in which Into the Sun was born, not in some sterile, assembly line pop factory. In a room where 7 people who genuinely love each other were trying to write the truest, most honest music of their entire careers. Arirang's 14 tracks were produced and written by some of the biggest names in music, including Mike Will Made It, Flume, Diplo, El Guincho, Chpeg Mafia, and Ryan Tedder, with members of BTS having a hand in writing every single one of the 14 songs. Every song, written in part by BTS themselves. This is not a manufactured K-pop album assembled in a boardroom. This is a record where 7 men who have given their entire lives to music sat down and poured everything they had into every single track. And the closing track, the last thing you hear before Arirang goes silent, was co-written by Jimin. With Tyler Johnson, with V, with Diplo, with Dog, with a room full of some of the most talented musical minds of this generation. Diplo, who worked on Into the Sun, among other tracks, told TMZ that Arirang is the craziest album ever and that it will shock the world. adding that working with BTS was remarkable because of how hands-on and creative they were. Diplo has been working in music for 3 decades. He has made albums with artists at every level, in every genre, on every continent. And he is calling Erarang the craziest album he has ever been involved with. That is not a casual statement. That is a professional who has seen everything in this industry telling you that something genuinely different just happened. Now here's what makes Tyler Johnson's involvement in Into the Sun so specifically significant. It's not just that he's talented, it's how he thinks about music. Tyler Johnson has described his philosophy as loving the process of making albums and writing with an artist while creating the sonic landscape that the songs will sit in, staying open-minded, willing to learn and adapt to every unique project. He doesn't show up with a pre-built formula. He doesn't plug artists into a template and call it a day. He shows up ready to learn, ready to adapt, ready to build the exact sonic world that the specific artist in front of him needs to thrive. That's the approach he brought to Harry Styles. That's the approach he brought to Miley Cyrus. And that's the approach he brought to Jimin. He didn't try to make Jimin sound like a Tyler Johnson production. He tried to make Jimin sound like the fullest, most realized version of Jimin that had ever existed on record. And Jimin had everything ready to give. According to Big Hit Music, the members were deeply involved throughout the songwriting and production process, infusing their own thoughts and identities while expressing the emotions and reflections they experienced along their journey. Jimin's journey. Think about what that phrase actually means. Jimin's journey over the past 4 years. The military service. The separation from his 6 brothers. The solo music that he made in the in-between spaces. The waiting. The longing. The reunion. The house in Los Angeles. The 6 days a week schedule. The 3 studio rooms and the rotating pairs. And the process of figuring out what BTS sounds like in 2026 after everything that has happened. Jimin brought all of that into the room where Into the Sun was written, and Tyler Johnson created the space for all of it to land on record. The song is called Into the Sun. Track 14, the final track, The Closer. BTS confirmed when the track list dropped that the anthemic Into the Sun would close out the album. Anthemic. That word was chosen deliberately. An anthem is not just a big song. An anthem is a collective statement. An anthem is music that makes a group of people feel united, seen, and part of something that is larger than any one of them individually. Tyler Johnson has made anthems before. As It Was an anthem. Watermelon Sugar was an anthem. Flowers was an anthem. He knows exactly what the architecture of an anthem looks and sounds and feels like, and he helped build one with Jimin on the closing track of the most anticipated K-pop album of the century. BTS's label confirmed that Erarang captures BTS identity as a group that began in Korea, while the album name Erarang itself is a traditional Korean folk song long associated with themes of connection, distance, and reunion. Connection, distance, reunion. Those 3 words are the emotional DNA of this entire album. And Into the Sun is where those 3 words arrive at their destination. After 13 other tracks exploring every shade of what BTS has been through, Into the Sun is the moment the album walks you toward the light. It is the musical equivalent of reaching the end of a very long road and looking up and realizing the sun is right there and you made it. Jimin helped write that feeling, and Tyler Johnson helped make it real. On November 1st, 2025, during a live stream, Jimin confirmed that the album was complete, saying the group had just finished recording and expressing genuine excitement about promoting their music. He said that. He told ARMY directly, "The album is done, and somewhere in that finished album is Into the Sun." The track Jimin poured himself into, the track Tyler Johnson shaped with his years of experience building anthems for the biggest names in pop music. The track that closes Erarang. The track that says everything that needs to be said after everything else has been said. And here is the thing that ARMY needs to fully absorb. Jimin's co-writing credit on Into the Sun is not ceremonial. It is not a gesture. It is not Big Hit putting a member's name in the credits to make fans feel good. The closing track, Into the Sun, specifically credits V, Jimin, Suga, J-Hope, and RM alongside outside collaborators as co-writers, with Big Hit having stated that all 7 members participated in shaping the album's music and concept. Jimin is in that room as a songwriter, as a creative voice, as someone who helped decide what the final chapter of Erarang says to the world. And he did it sitting next to Tyler Johnson, the man who helped Harry Styles write his entire solo identity, the man who helped Miley Cyrus make the fastest song in Spotify history, the man who helped Beyoncé win Grammy Album of the Year in 2025. Tyler Johnson was ranked the world's top music producer in 2022 by JackSta for his work on Harry Styles' Harry's House. The world's top music producer. Not top K-pop producer. Not top pop producer. The world's top music producer. That is the standard of person that Jimin sat across from in that Los Angeles studio. That is the person who looked at Jimin's ideas, Jimin's emotions, Jimin's artistic instincts, and said, yes, let's build something around this. Let's make this the last thing people hear. Let's make this the song that ends the album that ends the wait. Because when you think about what ARMY has been through, when you think about those 4 years of military discharge countdowns and solo music and Weverse messages and handwritten letters delivered to fans' homes with the date March 20th, 2026 written on them, when you think about how many people all over the world held on to BTS through all of it, the song that ends that wait matters. The song that closes that chapter matters. And Jimin understood that. He understood it so completely that he put his name on it as a songwriter. He wasn't going to let someone else write the final feeling. He was going to be in that room, with Tyler Johnson, with V, with Diplo, with all of them, and he was going to help build the door that Ararang walks every listener through on the way out. Tyler Johnson wrote the song. That means he brought the architecture, the sonic world, the production philosophy that has produced Grammy wins with Harry Styles, Miley Cyrus, and Beyoncé. He brought the knowledge of what a closing anthem needs to sound like. He brought the instinct that has made him one of the most trusted collaborators in the music industry. He brought everything, and Jimin wrote his soul into it. That means Jimin brought 4 years of silence and growth and longing and reunion and love and the specific weight of being one of the most beloved performers on earth returning to the thing he was born to do. He brought the emotional truth that Tyler Johnson's whole career has been built around helping artists find and express. And the result is Into the Sun, the last song on Ararang, the final track of the most anticipated comeback album of 2026. This is not a coincidence. This is not luck. This is what happens when one of the world's greatest producers meets one of the world's greatest performers at exactly the right moment in both of their careers. Tyler Johnson was ready. Jimin was more than ready. Ararang was the perfect container for what they built together. And Into the Sun is the proof. So the next time you hear that closing track, the next time the last few seconds of Ararang wash over you and you feel that thing you can't quite put into words, that warmth, that arrival, that sense of having traveled a very long distance and finally come home, know that Jimin helped write that feeling. Know that Tyler Johnson helped build that world. And know that what you are feeling is exactly what they intended. Every single second of it.